and his name is John C.
Hello everyone, welcome to the 6th episode of the in-depth guide of the game's Tale of Immortal, and today's element is Fist. And to start, Fist is an element of the martial skill that it's probably one of the most favorite ones of the development team, and it is developed, it is developed very nice and complete. Fist is super powerful. There are like 2 builds which are extremely powerful, and then there are also several other builds which are quite viable as well. You can use a Pure Fist, you can combine with Fire Fist, you can combine with Lightning Fist. All of them are good. It is very versatile. And another thing about Fist is, so just like many other elements or martial skills, you get one buff and one debuff when you do your martial damage, skill damage. And what's a bit different is, for Fist, the buff is basically a shield, and the debuff is to apply a debuff to the enemy so that they can be stunned. And shield and stun are 2 mechanisms in this game that is not only important to Fist itself, but also important to almost every single other build. And because the shield allows you to get more tanky, protects you. A stun lets you control the enemy. In a way also protects you and also improves your damage if you have a certain mind skill equipped. And this is why so I will talk about, in this video I will talk about how does shield and stun work in general. Then I will talk about what are the martial skills in the Fist which can apply this, either shield or stun. And then I will very briefly just go through all the special skills, because even though just like many other builds, special skills, there are 3 of them are related to denotate your shield, aka your buff, and 3 of them are denotate the stun debuff. However, in a Fist build they developed it quite nicely so that the shield and stun are kind of important in every single build. So the denotation shield build, stun is also a very important element in it. So then I will talk about motion skills and ultimate. Some in the middle, for example, when talking about shield, I will talk about what kind of mind skill, what kind of sub skills is important for it. So once all this is done, then I will introduce, let's say, the most powerful build, which is Fist denotation, aka Hillbreaker. Basically talk about how it works and why it is powerful and what things you need to be a mind of when you play this build. And then I will talk about another important one, Ironbody Fist. Then I will go through some other viable builds. And finally, because that's the thing about Fist build, is different builds actually you need to use different rewrite destinies, and therefore I won't have one single chapter of rewrite destinies. Oh, this is important, but I will talk about this within those builds itself. So let's start. So already 3 minutes has passed. I hope this video is less than 1 hour long, because Fist have so many things and it's very hard to finish it in a very short time. Let's talk about what is a shield. So right now I do not have anything equipped. Mind skills also only have move, guide, and sutra. So a shield is something really important in this game, because it have this thing that no matter how many shield points you have, so shield have HP point. You can have 1 HP shield, you can have 1 million HP shield. However, even if you have only 1 HP shield, if the enemy deals 1 time damage, no matter how big this damage is, like it could be 1 million, the shield will perfectly cancel this 1 million damage. It won't be like it will kill that 1 HP of the shield and then do this 99999 to your damage. No, it won't do that. And this makes the shield extremely important in many different builds in Chaos, because in Chaos boss usually have very high damage, but they are not necessarily have multiple hits damage. I mean, there are a lot of bots have that, and you need to beware of that. But many boss have, for example, Duncan, when they have this, just doing a charge to it, just one-time damage. Even you have 1 point of shield, you can perfectly cancel it. So that's why you, for not only for Fist, but for many different builds, you want to have a shield on you. And the easiest way to get the shield is a guide. So for guide is a general mind skill which increase your MP. However, if you look at the second last one, so the 11th sub skill, for every one enemy you use cut skills, you will receive 5 shield points. And you can use this to generate shield on yourself for every single build. And it won't be much for a Fist itself. That's another interesting thing, that so if you are playing actually a shield Fist build, it's not really necessary for you to have this sub skill, because you don't need it. You can generate shield in better ways, and it will be better. Because I mean, even at the Transcendent, what is my ultimate? How much does it cost? It costs 1000 energy, and there are sub skills to reduce it. And even if I have like 5 times, that's like 5000 shield points. It's not much at this Transcendent realm in Chaos. So that is there. But this is the most general way to generate a shield. Now, what are the other ways? And actually, why Fist is connected to shield? And that's because, first of all, for every single Fist martial skill, doesn't matter it is Bone Fracture or it's Brass Skin. You can see that on the skill info, equip this skill to receive this much shield every time you enter a new room. So which means you enter a new room, you will receive 12.8k shield on yourself. And this shield is permanent. So every time you enter a new room, you always have this shield on yourself. And you can see that, for example, now, actually, I didn't equip it. So let me equip this guy. So this guy is actually Bone Fracture, right? So it's not really Brass Skin. And if I enter the martial arts arena, I don't do anything. You can see there is this yellow golden shield thing around my character, and that is a shield. And the vitality of the shield can be seen from this little brown orange-ish bar below your HP bar. So that is about 12.8k, and my total one is 290k. So that's how long this point is, this little bar is, tells you how much HP does your shield have. Okay, and now this is something you get, and it's permanent. It will always stay there if you do not denotate it. Now, of course, if you take damage by the enemy, then it will cancel your shield points. That's a different thing. Now, another way of Fist build to generate shield is to equip a martial skill which applies Brass Skin. Brass Skin is the buff, just like every other element. But it's kind of different, because every other element you have many different stacks of buffs. Like, you can apply, I don't know, 16 stacks of Sword Slash if you're using Sword build. But Brass Skin, it does not have stacks. Instead, it has shield vitality values. So if you look on the right side, so each time when you trigger the Brass Skin, you will receive your shield value adds 3,900, and it is stackable. So when you trigger once Brass Skin, instead of 12.8k, you add 3.9k to your shield values. And there's a maximum limit. So the base value is 17.7k. On the right side you can see, and you can have the sub skill from your martial skill. For example, here, the fifth one, Brass Skin shield vitality, plus 3.9k. So basically, this tells you each stack will add 3.9k, and the maximum vitality, so next sub skill, maximum shield vitality plus 35.6k. So basically, it allows you maximum shield vitality multiplied by 2 times. And that will make your maximum vitality much bigger. However, whatever you generated shield by Brass Skin, so doing the damage, this is half duration. So base duration is 7 seconds. You can increase the duration in 15 seconds from your sub skill. You can continue increase it more if you have Muqing as equipped as your artifact spirit, and if you have the Fist secret manual, and that is still the same thing. Now, if this is something really interesting, so if you look at your guide, the shield guide, you see on the right side it says shield. This shield stackable blocks up to 17.7k damage, and that is the maximum damage this sub-skill can generate from your guide, and it is the same value as your brass skin maximum shield. So basically just took the brass skin, this shield thing, and applied it to the general guide manuals. And just like this one, the shield you generated from this from this guide can add towards to your shield itself, your initial shield itself. However, this one also doesn't have 7 seconds lasting time, so it's the same thing just like your brass skin one. It's not permanent. Alright, and so let's see what does it do. So remember when we first entered the arena, we have this little bar. Now if you continue to do damage to it, and you can see that my shield, this yellow bar starts to increase, and now it has much higher value. And I would say this much value is, I mean, I did some tests, this much value is just about equal to the initial 12.8k plus the 17.7k plus the 35.6k from the sub-skill. And yeah, that is how much bar you have, and this is the maximum. So no matter how much more damage you do, you won't increase bar. And now the question comes is, how do you increase the maximum of these shield values? Because many of the special skills where you have to denotate the shield, it deals more damage. For example, Hillbreaker, it deals more damage with how many shield points you have. So you won't have higher shield HP and the maximum one. So first of all, you can come to the mind skill. You can choose a Fist Mastery, and look at the second last sub skill, the 11th one. For every 5 maximum vitality points, your maximum shield point increased by 1. So this means the higher HP you have, your higher maximum shield points you have. For example, right now I have around 300k HP, which means this will add another 60k maximum shield HP to it. So now if I go it again, starting from this little thing, last time it increased around here, and now you can see it increased even more. So we almost reach around half, but less than half point of my HP bar. So that also means that if you have higher HP, this higher shield point you will get. And this is why even in general, if you're using a Fist shield denotation build, you won't have higher HP. That is important compared to your, especially if you're using Hillbreaker. Instead of attack like most other builds, you might want to have more HP. However, later on when I actually talk about Hillbreaker, I will say that even though this sub-skill in your Fist Mastery is really good, it increases your shield point, sometimes you might want to use Sword one, just because practically that might be better. Alright, and now just like other builds, if you apply for Secret Manual, and for example here, it also have this maximum shield point plus 9,000. It's better than nothing. It's not that much compared to the Mastery one. But maybe at certain point of the stage where, like early stage, when you don't have much vitality, maybe a Secret Manual, this maximum point is more compared to Mastery. And and another way to generate shield is actually when you look at the special skills. And for example, the first one, Shadowy Fist. If you look at the 8th sub-skill, for every stack of bone fracture consumed, you will receive shield points. Similarly to Lion's Row Fist, you can see that the 10th one, if the skill is cut when there's only one enemy, for the next 5 seconds you receive certain shield points every second. And so actually every single of these special skills can apply shield to yourself. basically you can find shield, receive shield, receive shield, receive shield, every single of them. So this allows you to always have some shield on you. And problem is, all these special skills generated ones, and even some of your ultimate generated ones, they also have time limit. So yeah, so it's the same thing as you generated from your martial skills. And that's where we're talking about maximum point. And finally, there is this one special destiny, which I will discuss more in part where I actually talk about the Hillbreaker build. That one allows you to convert all your HP to your shields, and that basically makes your shield 100% of your HP value. So that's another way to increase your maximum shield point. And last but not least is this thing, not the bell, but Cangya artifact spirit. So Cangya has this little talent that's in the final maximum level, which when you deal 100 times you deal damage, you receive 12% shield vitality. Basically, you will receive 12% of your HP as your shield. So now when we equip this, and we just reminder that we have equipped 2 mind skills, mastery that I already saw before, and a little bit more from secret menu, we should have even more shield points available, maximum shield point available. Starting from nothing, increase. You see, now this is yearly, and then in the end, it jumps up again. And that's when I dealt 100 times of damage, and the Cangya's talent makes it even more here. So now I have more than half of my HP converted. I mean, of the shield, not converted shield, but of the shield. So that's how you generate shield in the Fist build. Now let's move on to the next thing, which is stuns. So unlike shields, another of the debuff that your martial skill can apply is bone fracture. And if you look at on the right side, what bone fracture does, it puts a debuff on your enemy. And once the debuff is there, for each stack, there is a small percent of a chance the enemy will be stunned for 1 second if they receive any kind of damage to it. And there are sub-skills. The 5th one, increased stun chance. There are sub-skills here and from secret menu, from artifact talent, from Meng Yi, which will increase maximum stacks, and there are sub-skills increase duration. So basically, if you got everything maximum, you would have 16 stacks of bone fracture and 3% for each stack. That makes it about 48% chance to stun the enemy when the enemy receives any kind of damage. And as you can probably already know, that means if you have something like super fast attack like Supernova Sword, even though the damage dealt to the enemy can be 1, but it will stun it, have 48% chance to stun it for 1 second. This allows you to control the enemy very nicely. And obviously this itself is really good, and it is actually very rare in this game. It's, I would say, one of the only 2 debuffs or buff/debuffs, which is actually good by the effect of itself. Another one is internal injury from the palm martial skill, so which allows you to deal true damage every time the enemy receive damage. And I think I already covered it in my palm video. But Fist is another really good martial skill. And Syrian Fist, because it attacks really fast, with a bone fracture, it's actually probably stronger than many other kind of left mouse key skills of many other elements. Like, you could use this martial skill in many other builds. Like a lightning build, I would actually prefer to use a bone fracture fist or internal injury palm rather than lightning element skill itself, because I anyways can apply the debuff of lightning by the motion skill, which already also I talked about in my lightning tutorial as well. And similarly, if you look at my palm video, where I especially challenging the 3 immortals, when you need to control them, and if you do not have a better control way like Meng Yi's ultimate, you probably just equip a fist martial skill, and with the bone fracture you can manage to stun them and keep yourself safer. Another really important thing, which about stunning, I covered it in another video with how to generally increase the damage, is that you can combine this with a Fist Divine Power. So when you look at Fist Divine Power, apart from the general ones, increasing martial resistance, increase when some stat which is a value, increase attack, defense, maximum HP, this, that. But look at the last 3 sub-skills. So the last one, when there's only one enemy, your critical damage increases 140%. Second last one, when the Fist stat reaches this much, critical damage increases by another 190%. So without this, you can see that my critical damage is 600%. So which means I can deal 6 times more damage if the enemy's critical defense is 0. But the enemy, you already have a critical defense. Like for myself, I have 400%, which means I will only do 200% damage even if I trigger a crit to myself. But with the Fist, it increased to 790 on paper because my Fist stat reaches 950. And in practice, when in the battle, when there's only one enemy, you will increase another 140%. This allows me to do much higher crit damage to myself. But there is a maximum which is 5 times damage. But I think this, right now I have 390%, and if I add the 140, that is already more than 5. So I will do 5 times damage to myself if I do a crit. However, this is still not enough when you deal with super high level enemies in Chaos. For example, the 3 Immortals probably have 1000 critical defense. And critical defense here. So which means if you want to apply crit damage to it, you need to have more than 1000 critical damage. And that can be done from the 10 sub-skill here. Every time you inflict stun, your crit damage will increase 110% for 4 seconds. And here is the thing. Every time you do a stun again within the 4 seconds, the 4 seconds start to refresh. So if you can continuously apply stun within 4 seconds, just like when you have Bone Fracture Fist, martial skill, your critical damage will immediately jump to the rocket and you will do 5 times damage to the enemy all the time. And that is one of the best ways in this patch to increase the damage. A Fist Divine Power combined with the stun ability, continuously stun ability. So that's what makes even Bone Fracture Fist also very powerful. And not mentioning some of the Bone Fracture, so stun related Fist special skills are also extremely powerful. And therefore you have shield and you have stun. Both are really important and powerful mechanics in this game. And that makes Fist build very good. And now let's look at the martial skills. So basically, I would say it simply, most of the time you use Serene Fist. And because the first of all is fast, 0.7 cooldown. Okay, this one have 0.6 cooldown, but it's 1. And this is another thing, you release 6 Fists or at the same time. You can add 1 from your sub-skills, then with 2 Reborn Bird, it becomes 14 Fists. And this will allow you, just the same as many other martial skills, it allows you to have higher chance, much easier to apply the buff or debuff. And it is fast. I mean, I think you have already seen it from last time from the arena. Let me see. Yeah, we can actually look at what Bone Fracture do. So, Bone Fracture is this little icon here. I do it up. Immediately I go to 13th stat, and this is when without Mengyi equipped. And you can see that target is always stunned. You can also see this little star, that means it is stunned. Alright, and then we have the next one is, what is it called? Seismic Fist, and it basically drops Fist from the sky. However, let me make sure one thing. Yeah, I do not have the other. Yeah, because the other 2 martial skills will be strengthened by the set effect, so I'm trying to check if I have the set effect on me. So I do have set effect for Overlord on me, so I'm just going to remove these 2. So now I do not have any set effect on me. Alright. Let's see. So this one, you can see there's this fist dropping from the sky, and wherever you put your mouse is, it will drop. It does have a maximum range, and I can see that this is maximum range it can do. It is not super great most of the time, but with the set effect, it actually becomes much better. Now the next one is Colossal Fist. This is actually an interesting one. It is a charged skill. There are very rare charged skills as your martial skill. So it actually charges 1.3 times. And the longer it charges, the higher damage and longer range it will be. Let's see how it looks. I mean, from this you can probably see that it's not very useful if you're initially. Like, if I'm charging and it does higher damage. If I do not charge, just do this. It's like that. And when you have Reborn Bird, it becomes a bit weird, especially when you have auto attack. So instead of charging by yourself, it just automatically charges to the maximum. And I think even when I was switched to manual, I also cannot actually do a proper charge martial attack just now. But yeah, so you have to wait 1 more some seconds and it will do the damage. It's a giant fist, charging towards the enemy. Now, why don't I just directly tell you the set effect? Because the fun fact is, the two set effect of the fist, it's like two set effects will make your martial skill better, one of the martial skill better, and the four set effect will supposedly make one of your special skill better. So let's first look at Overlord. The two set effect is, during the 10 seconds after Colossal Fist stuns the enemy, the charging time reaches 0.1 second. And this basically makes it to minimum. And so before, when I was reading some information on Chinese website, they say that this 0.1 second can still be further reduced if you have like martial skill specification, etc. Which I believed it, but during my own test, I think I find out that no, it doesn't really change. So 0.1 second, it is minimum. So you don't need to have any martial skill cooldown reduction once you have a two set effect. Like, let's just try this again. But the thing is, you need to first apply the stun. The guy was not stunned, it's slow, and once it's stunned, immediately become very fast. And this is 0.1 second cooldown. And I believe there's, at least I do not really see any way to make this even shorter. So, I mean, that's just my test result. I could be wrong. But if anyone found I'm wrong, just correct me. Because I used to think that is the case, that you can further reduce it. But maybe that's not really the case. So that's one for this. Now when we look at the Seismic Fist, and I should have this one, Destinied Challenger. The two set effect is, if you have a shield casting the martial skill Seismic Fist will consume 10% of a shield up to 5,000, and every single shield consumed will increase area and damage. It doesn't say how much it increases, and I don't want to really test it out. Maybe let's just see. So right now I do not have that equipped. Oh god, this is not a good way to test it. To test it, I need to first go to set it to manual and try to see how much it actually increases. So for now, this 15k total damage when I deal one-time damage. Now if I equip a mind skill of this, sorry about that. Now I have the two, no, this is still Overlord. Where did I, it is this guy, sorry about that. So now I have two set effect of Destiny Challenge, and this should make my damage higher. Just now it was 15k, if I recall correctly. Well, first of all, just look at 16k, really? That's it? This doesn't increase that much. Yeah, but yeah, you can see that, first of all, the area is much bigger. but damage is not much. And that's the problem of this set effect. Its damage doesn't increase much. It does make your game much laggier, so I don't really recommend it. And just spoilers here that I do not recommend this set effect for the 4th set as well. It's actually making it worse, but that's a different story. Anyways, we have talked about martial skills. Now let's see the motion skill. Fist motion skill is actually quite strong. First of all, it's a charging skill, which means you can use it to dodge the motion skill seal from the King Luhua if you have the charge distance unlocked. Then it has damage, this, that, and it can knock back some enemy, which might not be optimal actually. You might not want this sub-skill. But one important thing here is, first of all, it allows you to receive more shield points if you look at second to last sub-skill. So if you have this knockback effect and you are charging into a group of mob, you receive more shield. So you don't even need to do attack by yourself. You can immediately charge it and then denotate your shield. I mean, that's when you are in low level, for example. Another thing, which is actually a more important thing in the end, which you already have shield when casting this skill, which you should always have. Like when you enter the room with any kind of fist martial skill, you will have initial shield, right? So that's there. Even if it's bone fracture, you will have it. Then you directly charge into the enemy, and the enemy will be stunned for 4 seconds. That's an extremely long time, to be honest. 4 seconds stun, and then you can just charge into the enemy. The enemy will be stunned for 4 seconds. Then you can just do your damage. Do damage and apply a lot of shield to yourself. And then once the 4 seconds is done, you just denotate your shield. And that's in general how you do fist denotation builds. So a fist charge motion skill is actually quite useful because of the 4 seconds stun. And finally, let's look at the ultimate. So there are 2 types of ultimates. The first one, Overlord shield, really good. So here's the thing. So the shield, quote unquote, here is a bit different from the shield on yourself. So what it actually does, well, why don't I just show you later? I mean, you can see it later when I show it. So what it actually does is actually casting shield shadows around you. So it's basically a bigger version of this Ironbody Fist sub-skill, special skill. And this surrounding shield shadows, or something like that, and which allows you to receive the shield points to yourself. So here is actually shield points. And then you also have a way to stun the enemy. And more importantly, when you look at the last 2 sub-skills here, especially the second last one, for duration of the ultimate skill, you receive more damage. You deal more damage to anyone who is stunned. 34% more damage to anyone who is stunned. And the enemy can be easily stunned by this ult. That's quite big damage amplification. And finally, if you increase your agility, which is always good. Now, another interesting thing, just equipping this skill without even using it. And every time you denotate a shield, you will receive actual shield shadow on the ground. And in order to show that, I might need to show this. I will equip a Hillbreaker. And let's see. So basically, I entered this. I denotate my shield. And you see this little thing. This thing is a shield shadow on the ground. This can actually block any kind of projectile. So technically, you could just keep on doing this, do one entire row and stand behind this, and any enemy's attack will be blocked by the shield shadows. And when I do this, you might already thought about what kind of scenarios it's useful. Yes, when you are dealing with the Leviathan, you can just seal the entire coast with shield shadows, because these shield shadows will actually block you, protect you in a way. You can see it here. Each shield shadow blocks incoming projectiles and even deals 5 damage to every enemy it hits. So if enemy passes through it, it will got hit as well. And these shield shadows have infinite HP, so it can block infinite number of damage. And these shield shadows are also the precondition to cast this ultimate. And sort of you need at least 2 stacks on the ground to cast it. And you can see it's very easy. You just need to use your special skill 2 times. So you don't really need combat expertise when you are doing a standard fist denotation build. And even if you do not get that fate, it's okay. You just need to cast it 2 times and then you get it. And if I use my ult, this is what you see. First of all, you get rid of all the shield shadows on the ground, so beware of that. And then it generates this thing rotating around you, and all these shields can also block projectiles, and so it makes you really safe. Now, yeah, that's basically it. Many builds I actually recommend you to, if you can pick up Combat Expert Spare Hand and use this ultimate, because it's really good. It stuns the enemy. So for many builds, you actually cannot use a Fist martial skill. You have to use your own one to apply the buff or debuff. For example, a spear one. The spear one, you always want destruction debuff, and then so you can charge. Xing, xing, xing. And in that case, you probably want a Overlord shield. It can stun the enemy, make your own safer. And also stun increase your crit damage rate. So once you start your Murderous Rise phase, when you are guaranteed to do 5 times crit damage, then you just keep on casting your special skill Xing 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 and the enemy was gone. So a really good way to stun the enemy to improve your own damage. And then you have the other ultimate. This one, Titan Fist, I think it's not super great. Probably the best thing about it is you can trigger it very easily. You just need to hurt 50 times. Every time you got hurt, you receive a stack of boiling blood. And if you got hurt 50 times, which is quite easy, as you know, in this game, then you can use it out. And obviously I cannot use it while I'm in the arena. And yeah, this is because, again, when I was showing cases in order to get rid of all the other stuff, so I do not have any right destinies on me. So let me think, how do I do this? Maybe I will just go to find something nearby. Actually, let the enemy hit me so that I can show you how to deal with this. Don't tell me there is no there's no little dungeon. Come on, I need a dungeon. Here you go. Let's see if I got hit 50 times, then probably. So I got hit 1, 3, 4, 5, 6. Notice that I actually do not get any HP loss because they are hitting on my shield. So even if you do not get any HP loss, you can still trigger this thing, which is quite nice. And many other things that works like that. Okay, now I can use it. So what it does is just like this. It automatically deals doing a lot of the fist to myself. And also the sub skills allows you to restore HP and receive more shield. That's why you can see I have much more shield here right now. Okay, I will just going to run at this time to save time. And yeah, this is something I forgot to mention, but actually can be really powerful, especially in earlier patch. When you have a Fist shield build, you can have a lot of shield, right? And when enemy do damage to you, you do not really get hurt because they are dealing damage on your shield. But they consider that they do damage to you, so they can get damage reflection. And you know what that means? Yes, you can have a Fist Tao field, which allows you to have damage reflection build, which is not that bad, especially earlier times, when you have a lot of shield. But that's a different matter. And I think I've talked about everything. Oh, it's already 40 seconds. Oh my god. It's getting too long. Sorry about this. But the next one I will change a little bit. I mean, at least get some proper rewrite destinies on and then I will talk about how to use proper Hillbreaker Fist. Okay, let's talk about Hillbreaker damage build. And so Hillbreaker, as you know, you should use a special skill Hillbreaker Fist. And what's special about this skill is, first of all, if you look at skill info, it deals true damage, and you can see this little icon here before the number 80.13. And for every single one shield denoted, you will deal 80.1 fist damage to the enemy. And if you have sub-skill, which is actually quite important, so the 8th one, every shield point denoted deals another 100.5 damage. So every single one shield you will do 180 damage. And in practice, after some tests, it seems that you actually do 2.7 times more damage based on this thing. I don't know why, but that is the result I get from a test, which is quite strange. And I can actually let you see here if I don't equip anything. Okay? And do not this, do not this, do not get this. Because this might just change your thing. Alright, so now, and I should get rid of this as well, so that I do not get a shield from this. I just equip a Bone Fracture one, so that when I enter this martial art arena, I would have a little bit shield, so basically 12.8k shield. And I come to here, I denotate it, da. One time damage 7 million, 7.2 million, which is crazy. And that is true damage. You know what does that mean? So true damage means any kind of big monsters. So even in Chiyo region, in the first 2 floors of the tower, they have less HP compared to this. So you just get in, you do not do anything. Just initial shield, you denotate it, it kills it. And I did some calculations, 7.2 million divided by 180, so 80 plus 100, 180. And then I again divided by the shield values I get, because that's the only thing which can get my shield, right? Which is 12.8k. And without any artifact spirit apart from him, but I haven't really get another shield yet. Without anything else, it seems that it does 2.7 times more damage. I do not know why, but just accept it. Because I have did other tests when I add more shield values and try to doing the same thing and find out it's always about that much, 2.7 times damage compared to what you should have. Well, which is good, why not? So as you can see, basically it's a one-time thing. It deals a ton of true damage, and which allows you to basically kills everything just in front. And you can probably already see that in one of the videos. And now, if you do not have much shield, for example, then what should you do? So, best way when you are earlier levels, let's say from Golden Core, or even probably Golden Core is still too early, maybe Naruto so-ish, what you should do is you get in a place, there are maybe mobs, right? And you charge into the enemy using the charge, and it will stun the enemy for 4 seconds. Then you do the attack, apply, not Bone Fracture, sorry, that is very wrong. Apply Brass Skin to yourself to build up your shield. And then once you see your shield value builds up to a certain value, and about 4 seconds later, you just denotate all your shields. And this will actually stun the enemy for another 2.5 seconds if you look at the 10th sub-skill here. And which is quite good, because in these 2.5 seconds, you can again do more damage and try to build up your shield again. So once the enemy is recovered from it, and notice that if you have a good mind skill, a mastery to reduce the motion skill cooldown, and 31.3 seconds maybe actually become 7 seconds-ish. So 6 plus 2.4 plus 2.5 seconds, enemy is already stunned for like 7 seconds-ish, right? 6.5 seconds. And that means once the enemy is waking up, if you have good mind skill, you can almost immediately use your charge again to stun him for 4 seconds. So your enemy can be always stunned, and allows you to build up your shield again to maximum and then do the damage. So this is how, in general, you should do with Fist Annotation build. And another good thing about Hillbreaker is if you look, obviously you have this sub-skill, the fourth one allows you to receive more shield every second once the skill is casted and there's only one enemy. So give you a little bit better thing, but it's not that important. But more things, yeah, you have sub-skill to deal 25% more damage to anyone who is stunned. Good. But the last sub-skill is another important thing here. The 12th one. For every enemy with this skill killed, the cooldown of it minus 2 seconds. And obviously that's great. Because you, especially when you're charging to a place with, let's say, a boss and several mobs, you cast Hillbreaker, you kill all the mobs. You immediately can cast Hillbreaker again, but you don't need to cast it again. You need to build up a shield. But at least it ensures that when you build up your shield, you can always cast Hillbreaker a second time if you didn't kill it already in the first time. So Hillbreaker is actually quite good. I mean, it is sustainable. It's not a one-time thing if you play it correctly. And that's how it is. And again, because it does true damage, another good thing is you can use this thing to deal with any NPC, higher level NPCs. You have a shield, you charge into the NPC was stunned, you cast your Hillbreaker, kill. You don't need to use a palm, a true damage. Just Hillbreaker is so good, it kills all the NPCs. And of course, that also means if you are in a tournament and if you see the NPC having Hillbreaker, be very careful. You might just lose randomly because you are too close to it. Be very careful. Check the NPC skill first before you actually engage. And yeah, that's Hillbreaker. And now I will add something. Talk about Rare Destinies. First of all, there is this thing called Unity of Heaven and Human. It looks good on paper because if you see what it does do is you do martial skill to the enemy and it stacks 50 times. And then you use special skill if you have 50% more damage too. So it sounds like it fits very well with the way how the play style of Hillbreaker. You build up a shield and then you denotate it. But in the test, it seems that it doesn't really apply to the damage of your Hillbreaker, so maybe not really need to use it. Again, I could be wrong, or could be a temporary bug in this patch, or could be that it's just martial skill arena is not good enough, but in my test, it doesn't really work. Then another thing good in general, as you knew that since we talked about shield, right? The maximum shield point if you have and I do not have it equipped. That's very nice. If you have a mastery, for every 5 HP points you increase your maximum shield. So you want to have a higher HP. And the two best destinies for you to have better HP, one is Vitality Seed 3, increase 30%. It's simple, straight, flat, 30% more HP. Fun fact, you don't need to choose Vitality Seed 1 and 2. You can directly choose Vitality Seed 3. Well, it's good. Another thing is Catalyst. So each artifact equipped increase maximum vitality 7%. So if you have 5 equipped, it becomes 35%. And I can directly see. Now I have maximum value 400k, and if I add another one, increase more. Add another one, if I increase even more. So add you as well. Yeah, you don't need to be super high level like Transcendent. My mask is nothing, so it increases the same amount of vitality, 7%. So that's how it is. And other than that, you don't really need any special phase. A martial skill specification is really good, especially in early game, because you need fast attack to build up a shield faster within the stun time, right? But I think once you reach Reborn, and if you have Bluebird equipped, this is basically like martial skill specification 3. It's like 35%. It's 20% of cooldown, right? And you can continue cooldown by another 15%, so it's 35% cooldown. And it's martial skill specification 3 or 40% cooldown. It adds together, multiplies together, so it can make your attack faster. But generally, after you reach Reborn, I think you don't really need the martial skill specification anymore, so you can just delete it and change it to a different one. And you don't need the blood. You need blood power, which give you a way to, get more HP back, which is always good. But you don't really need blood energy, it's good to have it just from a point of view to save energy, save your MP. But again, I think the 20% damage does not apply to Hillbreaker, even if you're using it with your HP. I don't know why. And combat expertise, pretty good as usual. But if you're using the shield one, you can still use it, but just need to cast Hillbreaker twice. And to be honest, Hillbreaker, most of the damage done is by Hillbreaker itself. You don't really need this shield. But it's good to have the shield. After all, once you stun it, you do 34% more damage to a stunned enemy, which is always great. Now, I will talk about why Warlord's Fantom maybe not a great idea for this. Okay, I'm back, and I just used Cheat Engine to add a Warlord Fantom to myself. And this is another reason why I have to use Cheat Engine when I make these videos, because it makes me much easier to explain many different aspects of this game. But yeah, if you have an issue with this, you can check out my Chaos playthrough, which has no Cheat Engine. But anyways, the Warlord Fantom is a special phase which allows you to convert all your vitality except 10 to yourself, to a shield. At least 30%, which means if you are entering the battle with full HP, there will be full HP bar. And so now, if I enter Maximum Arena, just see my vitality, okay, and now my vitality goes to 10, and I have a giant ass shield. And obviously this allows me to denotate it and deals a crazy amount of damage, right? But now the problem is, once you've done it, what are you gonna do? This will probably guarantee a guaranteed kill, especially if you use a fire motion and a fire security menu. It's a guaranteed kill for sure, but later on in this game they have introduced so many. First of all, there are damage limits. I'm not talking about King Luhua, who have 5,000 damage, which is crazy. But even normal things like Kunwu, Jianyi, so the Sword Immortal, he also have damage limit. So one-time damage won't kill him. And also there are many battles which you need to come back several times consecutively, and once you denotate all your shield, you are again back to the same level, which you need to apply the shield by the brass skin and do it again. So except the very first time you cast Hillbreaker, it is exactly the same as the normal Hillbreaker Fist build. And if you have built up your Hillbreaker properly, I think it doesn't really matter. Like, you have already overflow damage to, like, even without Warlord Fantom, you can already one-shot many big monsters, even in Chiyo region. And if you do not one-shot it, if you have a long consecutive battles, then later on you are left, if you don't have Warlord Fantom, you can still continue to play the same thing, do the same damage, except now you have better vitality. So I don't really see the point to just use one set fate and just to convert everything into all your HP into a shield and just for the one single Hillbreaker cast. It's good when you want big numbers and feels good. With a fire motion, you can literally cast this and kill those 2 firebirds where you're guaranteed to lose in this whole quest. But that's a one-time thing, and I think without Warlord Fantom you are more versatile in a build like this, but that's just my opinion. And also a small hint that you see that some NPC have this fate and their HP in the battle become to 10. Just equip any kind of blade skill, but instead of blood blade, you use the one with the ruthless buff to yourself. Ruthless doesn't care how many shield the enemy have. As long as the HP is below a certain value, it just kills. So that's just a small hint when you to deal with NPCs which have this Warlord's Fantom. And yeah, if you have some NPC you hate and you want to kill it easier, you can ask them. Sometimes they like you, they ask you for, for other suggestion too. You can give them Warlord's Fantom and then you equip a Ruthless Blade and just kill directly. That will be Hillbreaker. And now I delete Warlord Fantom from my list. And the second type of fist build I want to talk about is Ironbody Fist. And this is a thing that works better with Bone Fracture instead. So if you look at what does it do. So it will surround a shield shadow around you. So it's a mini version of this, Overlord shield ultimate. And so this shield shadow will block in projectiles. Pretty great, first of all. And also, if you look at it, it will explode when disappearing. Okay, that's something. More importantly, when you already apply the Bone Fracture debuff to the enemy, and when this shield shadow hits the enemy, it will unleash a shield shadow blast and dealing damage to it. And also, it will receive more shield points. And this is actually quite good, even without anything. Now again, I do not have any fate with me. So I do this, I cast this thing. And this round thing around me is Ironbody Fist. It's basically the shield shadow protecting me. And every time it hits the target, this line of things, it was those flying shield shadows, it deals damage to it. So that's from this 7th, it unleashes shield shadow blast and deals more fist damage. And it's surprisingly good and viable from, let's say, beginning of the game. Don't use fist because we have too short hand. But once you reach golden core and bit above, fist become quite powerful, and this is useful from that time. And now this is the way speed it rotates. It determines how fast its shadow will be released, right? And so you want it to rotate faster. And I believe there is, look at the last sub-skill. Shield shadow will revolve around you 80% faster. So this sub-skill very important to combine with the fact that when you hit the target with Bone Fracture, it will release the shield shadow and deal more damage. So with these two sub-skills, you basically make this skill do much more damage. And also, you can combine this with Spirit Fusion. And with Spirit Fusion, you basically, instead of seeing this 4 shadow around you can see the entire thing when you cast it several times. And also, even, let's say, Blood's energy to reduce the cooldown is also quite good. Because the duration of this thing, its duration initially is 7.2 seconds, right? So you can add 1.8 seconds, become 8 seconds. And if you have built up your cooldown reduction properly, you can reduce your cooldown 4 seconds, which means you can at least have 2 rounds of Ironbody Fist around you and dealing more damage to it. And now, what makes this thing even better is the mind skill, the Overlord. And so you look at the 4th set effect. For the duration of Ironbody Fist, East Colossal Fist triggers the burst of Field Shadow additionally. So which means apart from the rotating shields which triggers it, each time you do the martial skill damage, and instead of 1.7 seconds, it's 0.1 seconds, you release additional bursts. So this makes your damage even much higher. So I think I can just show you this. And again, since you are using Bone Fracture, which means you are doing 5 times damage with the crits. So don't forget about that. And do I have 4 sets already? 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, I already have 4 sets. That's quite good. So now I just need to equip Colossal Fist. And let's see how it works. Just remember. So now, first of all, I need to stun it so that I can have a faster attack. Come on. Okay, now we get it. Now, so you see this one shadow, shield shadow, and you see also the other 4 shield shadows in the 4 different directions. That is every time I start my Colossal Fist hit the target. And damage is quite high, especially you are very close to it. Because each time you hit the target and all the 4 channels, 4 different direction shield shadows will do the damage. It is quite good. And because especially when you have the out with you, you can deal very good damage and you're very safe because all the shield shadows are protecting you from damage and stun the enemy as well. So yeah, Ironbody Fist a really good build as well. And what others? Now I will actually talk about this one, Skyblast Fist. Since I'm talking about effect of set effects, this is a good time when to say why sometimes devs don't use their head when they make set effects. So we got Destiny, okay. Let's put this. So first of all, let's first see what does this skill do. Right? So I build up shield myself, I cast it, and you see the target have this yellow thing around it, and that's what this does. So each time you cast this skill, it will make a Skyblast Fist at a random enemy within a range. And also, if you look at several last few-ish sub-skills, after casting skills, first of all you deal more damage with stuns, it have a 20% chance to stun, which is good. And the second last one, denotate shield points at a time. So every time you denotate shield points, you will do more damage to your enemy. And that's so basically it allows you to denotate your shield to do more damage. Okay, and when you look at the initial skill info, you will denotate 1000 shield, and the second last one will minus 320 shield, so you only have denoted 700 shield points, and then you receive 1000 shield point every second. So basically you're not losing shield, you are increasing shield. You can continue using this, and your shield, you can see that it's losing, but it's also increasing. So it's quite good itself. It's not a bad skill, right? Now, look at what does set effect do. I probably won't show you because I can already tell you this doesn't work. I've checked. I'm 100% sure. So because in order to get it, I need to equip some other set effects. So set effect, the fourth one, Skyblast Fist no longer costs shield for additional attacks, but grant 50 shields whenever it deals damage, and everything 100 max velocity increase max shield by 20. Looks very good. By the way, this second sentence, every 100 shield, HP increase max shield by 20, doesn't work if you do not equip this special skill. So you might be thinking, okay, I'm just equipping these 4 set points, but so to increase my maximum shield, I'm using Hillbreaker. Doesn't work. Sorry about that. But the main thing is, because your Skyblast Fist does not cost shield anymore, which means it does not denotate shield points, so it doesn't do any damage anymore. It's so dumb because technically it's not a bug, it works as what is written. It does not denotate anymore, so, and the consequences do not do any damage. So I don't even know what to say about it. I think what they want to do is, instead of costing, even right now I'm still costing 700 shield points, right? So now instead of costing 700, I'm adding 50 shield points. Isn't that great? You're adding more shield points and you are dealing damage. But their program is telling them that, I'm not costing shield point anymore, so I'm not doing any damage. So maybe after they fix this thing, this can be useful. But for now, it might be useful at a certain point. I mean, it's not super great, but it's a viable build. Just don't use set effect. Alright, and what are the others? Let's talk about things are not very great first. Now, Lion's Roll Fist works with shield, so basically it releases a cone-shaped fist and it will denotate all your shield points, And yeah, you have sub-skill to take less shield points, this and that, when knock out enemies. It isn't very good. I think you can only use it before you have Hillbreaker. But if you before you have your Hillbreaker at Golden Core, you might use this thing to unite. But you could also just simply use a defense. It's not very great. That I can really tell you. Now, the two left actually are not bad, and you can see this from one of my first tutorial video about how to reach 0 CD special skills. First one is Shadowy Fist, and it is also the first special skill you learn when you use a fist. And second one is Mindbreaker Fist. Both of them have the special sub-skill that if the last one, if the skill is cast when there's only one enemy, the cooldown -4 seconds. This means it can reach 0 CD. And to show that, I will have to add some correct Destinied to myself to let you see how it works. I mean, I already showed it once, but in case you have never watched that video, which I do recommend you watch, I will show you. You can see it in this video as well. Alright, I'm back. And now, Mindbreaker Fist. 0 CD. Extremely high damage, as you can see. So what does it do? Why there are 0 CD? I will explain in the other video, but with proper setup, with -3 seconds sub-skill from this, and from the -4 seconds when there's one enemy, you need Mastery -25% on your special skill. You need Blood Energy 3, which allows you to use your Vitality cast skill, but also cooldown -20%. You need Wandering Cloud -10%, and finally you need this guy. Any kind of will, or there are two other Downmind into Perfection skill cooldown -10%. This will reduce your standard cooldown of your fist to 4 seconds, less than 3.9 something seconds. And when there's only one enemy around, it becomes 0 CD. The same thing can be done with Shadowy Fist. So even though it is one of the early skill you get, it's actually very powerful at the very end of the game as well. I mean, these two are not great in the middle game, but they are powerful at the end game. And Shadowy is not that bad in the early game as well. I will just use this one. So 0 CD, I mean, it's great. If you have seen one of my most popular showcase video, which is a 0 CD blade build, but if you are using a Mindbreaker Fist, it's exactly the same thing. You can kill the 35 Shuang within seconds. You can kill every single thing within seconds, apart from King Luhua maybe. But yeah, 0 CD build is always great. And I'm wondering, maybe I will just showcase... No, it's actually taking too long, so I won't showcase how using this thing against Shuang Yu anymore. And this is anyways old news, you already knew how to build this. And just to say that, yeah, these two skills can give you 0 CD, always great. Lion Roll, meh, a bit meh, sorry about that. Skyblast Fist, viable, as long as you don't use Force-Set effect. Bad. Something I do not have anything to say to the devs. And Ironbody Fist, quite good. Like in the middle is already quite good, you just need to build it with Bone Fracture. And also once you have Force-Set effect, it becomes even much better. And Hillbreaker, overpowered. 2 damage, extremely powerful. Even with a pure fist, it's great. And you don't need to use Warlord Fantom. You can always use a fire motion plus a fire secret menu, making it much better because you just use fire, custom Hillbreaker, and use fire again, and just the shield from your guide many times already enough. And sometimes you just do a little bit more, shield building with Brass King. But yeah, super great. And or you can also use a standard Bone Fracture Fist with a lightning, and Supernova Sword, and it's also quite great. Fist is very versatile, and it's very good. Maybe something weird is because, for example, when you are using when you are using Mindbender, their city build, you want Blood Energy 3, right? Blood Spirit 3. Oh, was it? I don't remember the English word. Yeah, Blood Energy 3. But if you are using Ironbody Fist, like before you have the 4 set effect, you want fast attack, right? You probably want Martial Skill Specification 3. Same thing goes with Hillbreaker Fist. So Martial Skill Specification are good for these two. Well, Blood Energy 3 is good for these two. And also, Ironbody Fist Spirit Fusion 3 is also good for Ironbody Fist. So you might consider what is the best, because you have limited slots, right? You might consider what is the best to choose for your different destinies. And I would say Martial Specification, you can get rid of it once you are reaching, let's say, Reborn Transcendent, once you have Reborn Bird for these two builds. And then you can choose Fixed Spirit Fusion for Ironbody Fist, or something else for Hillbreaker. I don't know what. Or let's say initially you start with Martial Skill Specification, and then once you reach Transcendent or Reborn, where you know you can't have Zero City, then you change it into Blood Energy 3 to get a Zero City build for these two. So I think that would be it, and I knew it will be more than 1 hour. It is too long, but I'm sorry about that. But Fist just have so many things to talk about. So I hope that will be it, and thank you for watching. And if you found this video helpful, please consider leave a like or subscribe. And I mean, it is very helpful for me because I know that people like my videos. I believe, I mean, this sounds very arrogant, but I believe I might still be the only person on the YouTube which have this much in-depth tutorial to talk about in this game of Tale of Immortal. And so if your likes and subscribe means a lot to make me feel recognized, and consider to do that. Thank you very much, and I will see you next time.